High Five, Waco, Texas, active since 1989. The early 90s had its share of R&B groups that came and went, but few burned out as fast as High Five. They had all the right ingredients, smooth vocals, a major label push, and a breakout single that went #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That wasn't just big for R&B, it was massive for any artist. Yet, in just a few short years, they were off the charts, their lineup scattered, and their story overshadowed by tragedy. For a moment, they were the new kings of New Jack Swing, blending youthful energy and harmonies that could easily rival Boyz II Men and Jodeci. Their debut album was a platinum success, and they seemed to be on track to dominate the decade. But instead of becoming household names, High Five quickly faded into the background, becoming more of a cautionary tale than an influence for the next wave of R&B. Some groups fade out naturally, changing music trends, label politics, or just the passage of time. High Five's fall, however, wasn't just about the industry shifting, it was much darker than that. From the tragic death of their lead singer, to a murder charge that rocked the group's history, to internal struggles that prevented them from ever truly capitalizing on their momentum, their journey became less about the music and more about survival. There was never a graceful decline with High Five. One minute they were here, the next they weren't. And by the time they tried to reclaim what was lost, the industry had already moved on. Their name became more of a remember them than a legacy of influence. But the real story of High Five isn't just about their quick rise and even quicker fall. It's about why they never had a chance to begin with. Because if you look closely at their history, you will see their downfall wasn't an accident. It was written in their history from the very beginning. A platinum-selling debut, a #1 hit, and a sound that perfectly captured the era. None of it mattered when behind the scenes, things were already unraveling. Bad decisions, bad luck, and bad timing sealed their fate before they ever truly got to enjoy the success they worked for. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to Loner502 on YouTube for this request. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. High Five was an R&B group formed in Waco, Texas in the late 80s, led by teenage vocalist Tony Thompson. They had the right mix of talent and image, quickly catching the attention of producer Teddy Riley, one of the architects of New Jack Swing. Signed to Jive Records, High Five released their self-titled debut album in 1990. The project was a platinum success, fueled by the chart-topping single I Like the Way, aka The Kissing Game, which hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Other hits like I Can't Wait Another Minute and Just Another Girlfriend kept their momentum strong. Their second album, Keep It Going On, in 1992 didn't match their first success, but still delivered She's Playing Hard to Get. By their third album, Faithful, in 1993, the group was already losing steam. Internal struggles and industry shifts sent them into a fast decline, one that would only get darker with time. Stunt #1, Internal Struggles and Industry Neglect. The music industry has a history of discarding young R&B groups the moment their momentum slows, and High Five was no exception. While their first album was a platinum-selling success, their second and third albums failed to match the same energy. But what made their downfall even worse was the internal struggles within the group that ensured they never had a real chance to rebound. Behind the scenes, there was tension. Lead singer Tony Thompson was clearly the star, but as with many groups, that kind of dynamic breeds resentment. Some members wanted more creative control, others felt they were being pushed to the side. On top of that, money disputes started creeping in. They were teenagers signed to a major label, yet their financial situations didn't reflect the success they had on the charts. By 1993, after the release of their third album, Faithful, the industry was already shifting. New Jack Swing was fading, and R&B was moving toward a more soulful, hip-hop influenced sound. Groups like Jodeci and Boyz II Men had already surpassed High Five in popularity, and their label, Jive Records, wasn't prioritizing them anymore. They weren't being pushed like they were in 1990, and instead of evolving with the times, they were left behind. This is where most successful groups either adapt or die, but for High Five, adaptation wasn't an option. The label lost faith, their group chemistry was fading, and soon members started leaving. Roderick "Pooh" Clark was already out after a near-fatal car accident, and before they knew it, High Five was dismantled. Without label support and without a strong internal foundation to keep them together, High Five fell apart before they even had a chance to fight for their spot in the changing R&B landscape. And for Tony Thompson, things would only get worse from here. Stunt number 2, the tragic downfall of Tony Thompson. If there was any hope of a high five comeback, it was gone the moment Tony Thompson's life started spiraling out of control. As the clear face and voice of the group, everything hinged on him. And while other members moved on, Thompson tried to keep High Five's legacy alive, but behind the scenes he was fighting battles he couldn't win. After High Five's breakup, Thompson went solo, releasing his solo debut album Sexational in 1995. But without the backing of a major group, his star power never translated into solo success. The album flopped, and by the late 90s, he was out of the industry completely. The sudden shift from fame to irrelevance hit hard. By the 2000s, Thompson was struggling financially and battling a drug addiction. The industry had moved on, but he hadn't. He made multiple attempts to restart High Five with new members, but nothing stuck. The magic was gone, and so was the label's support. He went from performing on major stages to barely being recognized in the streets of Waco, Texas. Then came the biggest blow, his death in 2007. On June 1, 2007, Thompson was found dead near his apartment complex in Waco, Texas. He had been inhaling Freon, a toxic gas used in air conditioners, which ultimately led to his overdose at just 31 years old. Reports later revealed he had been using it to get high, a devastating sign of just how far things had fallen for him. Without its lead singer, High Five had no foundation. Thompson was their voice, their identity, and with him gone, so was any realistic chance of resurrecting their name in R&B history. But as tragic as Tony Thompson's story was, he wasn't the last member to meet a dark fate, because in 2014, another former member made headlines, this time for murder. Stunt number 3, Russell Neal and the murder that shocked R&B. By the time the 2010s arrived, High Five was nothing more than a memory from the New Jack Swing era. But in 2014, the group's name resurfaced, not for a reunion, not for a resurgence, but something much more darker. On July 2, 2014, former High Five member Russell Neal walked into a Houston police station and calmly told officers that his wife was dead. He claimed they had an argument and she needed medical attention. When authorities arrived at their apartment, what they found was horrifying. His wife, Catherine Martinez, a 24-year-old fitness trainer and aspiring model, had been brutally beaten and stabbed to death. Her body was left in their home for days while Neal simply waited for the police to take him in. Witnesses later reported that he had been physically abusive to her for years, but no one could imagine it would end like this. When questioned, Neal refused to cooperate, simply saying, "I want a lawyer." He was charged with first-degree murder, but as the case developed, it took an even stranger turn. Neal's behavior became erratic, and his attorneys argued he was mentally unfit to stand trial. Eventually, he was found incompetent and placed in a mental institution where he remains to this day. The murder of Catherine Martinez was a chilling stain on High Five's already troubled legacy. The group, once known for its innocent love songs like I Like the Way, was now linked to drug abuse, tragic death, and the murder case that made national headlines. At this point, High Five wasn't just another forgotten R&B act, they had become a tragic case study of talent wasted, opportunities lost, and lives destroyed in the process. And with 3 of its most well-known members either dead or disgraced, the group's story had finally reached its breaking point. All in all, High Five had everything needed to succeed: talent, industry backing, and a #1 hit that still gets airplay today. But behind the scenes was a group built on shaky ground. Internal struggles, a lead singer battling addiction, and one of the most shocking crimes linked to an R&B act sealed their fate long before they had a chance to build a lasting legacy. Some groups fade away quietly, but High Five's story is one of wasted potential and irreversible tragedy. Tony Thompson, their biggest star, died alone in a Texas apartment complex at just 31 years old. Roderick "Pooh" Clark suffered a life-altering accident before passing away in 2022. And Russell Neal will likely never be free again. High Five's music may live on, but their name will always be attached to the downfall that followed. A group that once soared, fell harder than anyone could have predicted. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, their growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.